Hi, my name is Autumn Newbury, and I'm here at the Well Comedy Club with...
I'm Dan Betts, owner and comedian.
My name's Anthony Howdigy. I'm a comedian, and I'm also the front of house manager here at the Well Comedy Club.
And I'm Marcos Alvarez. I'm a comedian here at the Well Comedy Club.
How do you handle a joke that doesn't land? Is there like a
Let Marcos answer that one.
way for... Is there a way to revive a bit that kind of initially failed?
So
Do you just move on, like scratch it?
What we call it is technical terms is called bombing. The joke bombed. So the joke didn't do good. There's a different theories behind it with jokes not going the way you thought they would go. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, like if you have a joke that you're like, man, was it just the crowd? Was it this? Or were you going to be honest with yourself and go, that joke is just bad? I honestly think to be a good comic, what makes a really good comic is those comics who take risk and learn how to not do good. Like, that's not the right way to say it. Learn how to bomb, but like they learn how to take that bomb and learn from it instead of going, I'm just the worst comic in the world, I guess. I don't want to do this anymore.
Like rather than taking it personal.
Exactly. You cannot take it. There's a thing too that people call it like killing your babies. If you love that joke it's called killing your babies.
Okay.
So you have the joke and you're like, man, this joke, I sat and I wrote it and I think this joke's going to do really good. And then it bombs. And then you go, you know what? I'm going to try it tomorrow. Because here at the Well Comedy Club, there's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday open mics. So you could go up and try. You could try that joke 3 times in a week. Say that joke bombs 3 times every single day. That's when it turns into, I got to kill this joke. This joke's not going to work. Especially if you don't adjust it or if you don't turn it on anything, you got to get rid of it. So you have to be honest with yourself and be like, is this a good joke? Am I just not delivering it the right way? Or overall, is this just a terrible joke? Never should have wrote it.
Is that so how the club has Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday open mics? Does that go for all of you guys? Of if a joke doesn't work by Thursday, you guys scratch it?
No,
I would keep doing it?
I would say that's like an example of like, say Tuesday it doesn't do good, Wednesday it doesn't do good, Thursday it doesn't do good. But it's also like, how did you adjust for it? Did you adjust it the right way? Did you put like a different twist onto it? Maybe you have to add what you thought was the funny part to the front. Mm-hmm. You know, and really listen to the reactions from the crowd pretty much.
So just kind of rearranging it until it possibly
Rearrange it, work on it, write it 4 different ways. My rule of thumb, if I don't have a joke, if I lose interest in a joke by 2 weeks, I know that joke, I'm not going to want to do that joke anymore. It's not going to be good.
I'm going to answer I want to zoom in on that. Like, Marcos is giving you an answer from high level. I want to take it to that exact moment on stage, right? Like you hit a joke, it didn't work. Some people have that, like, I've never liked this. It's personal preference. Everybody do you. But some people have that go at the crowd. Like, oh, you guys didn't like that one? Well, F you guys, blah, blah, blah. To me, that's just the quickest way.
Oh, we're visual people.
Yeah. That's the quickest way. It's super inside there. That's the quickest way to like alienate the crowd, turn them against you. Like you're blaming them for you sucking. 100%. And it may even be a great bit, but maybe you flubbed part of it. You know what I mean? Like it's a fantastic bit. You fumbled it at the 1 yard line. You stumbled over your words, whatever the case. Or like you got a bunch of older, church going folks or whatever in this crowd, and you're doing like, young dating material, or it's a college crowd and you're doing like marriage and kids material. It doesn't work. I'm far more likely to crap on myself if a joke doesn't work. And then in that moment where like, as a comic, you're so vulnerable on stage. Like if you're a band, you can hide with your other band members. They're not digging the song, crank it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. You're looking at each other on stage, and you're like, all right, well, we got another 90 seconds of this crap, and then we're on to the next song. But, like, you almost feel naked up there sometimes. Like, I'm doing this joke. You guys clearly don't like it. It feels like such a judgment on me, my writing, my style, my intellect, whatever. You're not digging it. So, to me, I want to get out of there as quick as I can. One, it's uncomfortable for me, but 2, it goes back to the earlier question, which is like, I'm trying to make you laugh. So if you're not digging this, what do I do? Sometimes you just address the elephant in the room. Like, all right, you guys don't like that one. Like, let's move on. Like, all right, still working on that one. And just, all right, F me, that's more my style.
Yeah. Was this a question regarding new jokes or just bombing like a joke not working in general?
Pay attention next time. Why don't you pay attention to the question next time? She ripped. There's nothing written here, dude. She's off the script. She's on Instagram.
I have YouTube open.
Is this the laptop on camera right now? She's on Instagram.
It was how do you handle a joke that doesn't land?
Okay,
is there like a way to revive it?
Overall.
So yeah, overall.
So I think
sorry.
there's two ways to look at this, because if a joke doesn't land and you've done it multiple times and you know it's a good joke and you know it works and you know it makes you laugh, it just didn't work for this crowd, you just say, okay, that didn't work for you. I'm gonna keep it moving. I'll do another one. But if you're doing new material and it's not working, for me, like if I'm doing new material and it's not working, I'll immediately go into, I have to write better. I have to make it more clear. I have to tweak it so that it's more comprehensible to everyone in the room right now because I messed it up. I immediately go into F me like you do. Like I just go into like, oh, that was my bad. I'll fix it. And then what I do half the time is I'll go and fix it. I'll come back and it ends up working. And it's like, it was just me. I just had to rephrase it or do it a different way. But there's a lot of times where you'll just write some crazy dumb stuff. You're like, I think this is so silly. It's so stupid. I'm going to go try it. And you go try it and it doesn't work. You're like, all right, that didn't work. I'll scrap that. And for me, I'm always like, I'll write another thing. I'm not sort of like beholden to like this one joke. I'll just be like, all right, screw it next. And then I'll do another one. It's something like you're drawing a picture and you show someone and they're like, oh, I don't really like it. You're like, all right, then let me draw another one and I'll show you this one. Do you like this one? Like, okay, yeah, it's good. I just take the ownership in it and just try to do it better next time, Yeah.
You got to let it go sometimes.
Yeah,
right? Like,
you can't take it personally either.
A friend of ours just sent me something on Instagram recently, and it was all about being an artist. And part of it was like, I didn't realize, like I was reading it and I was like, oh, that's universal to being an artist. I kind of thought it was me a little bit, but like it gave me a little bit of comfort to realize other people are this way too. I think as an artist, if we want to call ourselves artists, that's fair, we should, there's this like desire for perfection. Like you really want to smash every time you go on stage. But also, not every song that Aerosmith wrote is Steven Tyler's favorite song. You know what I mean? Like you got some favorite songs and you got some songs that made it onto the album because you needed 12. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
Not
Yeah.
every joke smashes, and some are kind of filler jokes. So it's like you're making a mixtape for the girlfriend. You know what I mean? You're starting off slow, and you got this one, you got that one. Like you're weaving together a story, and in theory, there's a start, and there's a middle, and there's an end, and there's an arc. But some of it is just we're passing time here.
Sometimes you just need a good transition sentence in an essay.
Yeah.
You just got to get to the next one that you know is going to be a killer.
Yeah,
You're
it's
just trying to
bit literally to link together.
Yes.
2 bits, and that's all it is. It's serving its purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think sometimes you have to be unafraid of, and this is hard for all of us. I think I could speak for you guys to go like put it out there. If they like it, they don't like it. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Like move on. Keep the train keeps rolling.
So Dan, you're the owner of the Well Comedy Club. Aside from being a comedian, what made you or want to be a comedy club owner?
I think I went back and forth. Depending on when you asked me in my life, there were times I thought it would be cool to be a club owner. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to when I was in Chicago, one of my best friends was the lead singer of a band, and I kind of helped quasi-manage the band a little bit. And I remember back in the day telling him, I always thought it'd be really cool to own a venue so that you would have some control over what bands made it onto that stage. Because I always felt like there were so many great bands that nobody would book because they weren't established yet. The radio hadn't told us yet that you're supposed to listen to Fall Out Boy, Chicago band. And you should be booking bands that are going to put on a good show for the people that come out. I didn't understand the business side of that yet in terms of what ticket sales are going to do and whatnot, Mm-hmm. So there was always that side of me that thought it would be cool to own a venue and be able to book acts that I like, that I think other people would like, and sort of say like, throw caution to the wind. You know what I mean? Just go like,
Yeah.
if you build it, they will come, so to speak. Put on a good show and believe in it, and then folks will come out. The flip side of that was never wanting to own a club and thinking like, what a stupid idea. It would just get in the way of my own comedy. I would have this, and these guys could speak to it a little bit, but like the transition of just being fellow comic versus like having to be a boss now. Oops, the first word of the podcast.
You see the real emotions right there.
Honesty, it came out there, dude. It just spilled over. But like the transition of like, we're just friends, we're comics, we're drinking, we're doing what we love, and then there's like, hey man, who spilled this? You know what I mean? It's like that sucks. Yeah. That part of it sucks.
Have you found being a club owner kind of quote get in the way of you being a comedian as well?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, Dan
100%.
gets looked at differently.
Yeah,
in a way.
Can you explain a little bit like how?
Just real quick before you say, we just all went to Vegas together for a gig at Kimmel's Comedy Club in Vegas, and this was a topic that kind of came up a bit. And you say it from your perspective, but I'm sure you could sense that for me that was still a hard transition of like, oh, I got to be the bad guy sometimes. Yeah. That's not in the nature of most comics. It's like most of us are shirking authority to some extent, is shirking the 9-to-5 job in the corporate America and going like, I'm going to tell wiener jokes. You know, it's like, it's supposed to be loose. It's supposed to be fun. But there's that business side of it too. So back to initially, right? It's like you want to own a venue and go like, let me put up good bands or let me put up good comics, people that I believe in, and I want to show them to the public. But there's a cost in doing that. So then the flip side of that is, yeah, it does get in the way of my own comedy. But I want to let him speak on that, I guess.
Yeah.
They'll look at Dan differently, where it's before Rocket Shop days, Dan was just the host of Thursdays, and he would book a show occasionally.
Because he didn't own Rocket Shop.
He didn't own Rocket Shop. He was just how would you explain that? Like the organizer of the event of the day, of the weekly
He was
event.
a host.
He ran a weekly event. He was a host.
Okay.
So that was just his role. He was just responsible for being sure a list got out and that the microphone was on. That was Dan's role. And when Dan came here after Rocket Shop closed and came to the Well and started running his Thursday night, it was kind of the same thing. Like, oh, Dan has a dope venue. He has like a little rock club now that he's doing open mics at. And then when Dan announced, he goes, I'm going to take over ownership, kind of flipped where it was like, now people are like, oh, Dan's gonna either give me a chance or opportunity or career. And it also was like, you see the people who during the Rocket Shop days who weren't, I would say, fans of Dan, all of a sudden wanted to be Dan's buddy. And you would get those guys who are in his ear like, hey man, what about me? What about this? You know, I have an idea. All of a sudden, when Dan became the owner, they wanted to come to him and tell him how to run his business. But before, when they had nothing to do with it, I'm going to just show up and do my spot. And now all of a sudden, Dan's the most popular guy in comedy Bakersfield scene.
How long has the Well Comedy Club been around?
So we took ownership, what was it, guys? July of 22?
Yes.
July of 22, we took ownership.
Was it the Well Comedy Club at that time?
So it was the Well. For folks that know Bakersfield, previously this was B Riders.
Okay.
Right? It was like kind of a classic staple kind of dive bar. And I don't say that in a negative sense, but a dive bar, Southwest Bakersfield, right?
That had a dope music. Like,
yeah,
like
great,
it was
great
perfectly
music
set up
scene.
for music.
They had a shuffleboard table over here and pool tables and TVs and whatever. And especially like in this region of Bakersfield, there wasn't a lot of probably competition for like a Southwest bar, like a place. Not that I'm condoning it at all, right? But like a place where folks could drink and be like, all right, it's a mile and a half. I gotta just make it home, you know. But like you want not condoning.
We do not support drinking and driving.
Not at all. I'm just saying it was the close. That's my Cheers. That's my local watering hole. Yeah, you could walk. It's a.
Could have my kid pick me up.
Have my kid. It's a short Uber drive. You know what I mean? And then it became the Well. Before COVID, Rocket Shop closed. The owners were retiring and selling the business, and So that was like to some extent the heart of the comedy scene in Bakersfield, and to some extent to Central Valley. And my wife and I considered buying that place and turning it into a comedy club almost out of necessity, right?
Buying Rocket Shop?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started exploring that, and at the same time, I found The Well. So B Riders got bought out and became The Well, and again was kind of staple dive bar-esque. Much nicer. The former owner put a ton of work into the place and made it a lot of what you would see here today. A great bar in this area, kind of sports bar-ish. And so pre-COVID, as Rocket Shop is closing and I'm looking for a new place to move the open mics and the shows, a friend of mine at the radio station turned me on to The Well. And so we started exploring bringing the open mics and the shows here. And I was looking at other venues too. And then COVID hits the place. So we had agreed on it. The former owner and I had agreed upon it. And we're going to start this, the open mics and the shows here. And then COVID hits. When they reopen post-COVID, instead of becoming a bar, they opened up as an events-only venue. So we started running comedy here. And they were doing like line dancing, country music, rock bands, cover bands, whatever. And at some point, the former owner had kind of a business associate that said, "Hey, comedy's doing better than everything else that we're doing here. What if we just become a full-time comedy club?" And I was like, cool. Like I had already considered that at one point. And this would have been the best of both worlds because I could be in the position to decide what bands and comedians get on stage and put up great shows for the audience, but I wouldn't have any of the hassle or anxiety of running the place. You know what I mean? So we did that for about a year post-COVID, and then the owner came to me one day and said, "Hey, we're selling the business. Any interest?" And then so that's how that happened. But back to really quick what you said, like that's Marcos touched on the one side, which is like folks would be like, "Oh, he's the most popular guy in town now," because that's the quote unquote gatekeeper. Where like I might not have been a fan of Dan. I didn't like the guy at all, but I see that he's a stepping stone to me getting what I want, so I'm going to be cool. And I had talked to other club owners that I knew before making this decision, and one of them, Jen up in Sacramento, owns Laughs Unlimited. When I texted her the day that we pulled the trigger, and I was like, "We did it! Like, we bought the club," and she went, "Get ready to be everybody's best friend," and I was like, "Ugh!" Like, I think there's people that would really like that, which is to me kind of narcissistic. I went, "Oh, that's gross!" Like, and I was really nervous about if the lines would get blurred. It would be okay with me if I knew that you were being fake and pretending to be cool because you felt that I held something that you wanted, and I could just put you in that bin. Or if we're just genuine friends, I put you in that bin. I was nervous about not knowing which one you were in. I thought that would be really gross. But the flip side of that is, then there's folks I think we might have been cool, but now all of a sudden I'm in a position to say yes or no to you, and you don't like that. And so I think that there were folks that we were just peers and fellow comedians that all of a sudden were like, "Well, F you." You know what I mean? Like either felt that I was doing something with my career that they weren't and didn't like that, or just that to be a gatekeeper, which I don't see myself as that, I guess, but accept the reality of that is the case for some folks. So it's easy to be my friend and like me when I give you a gig, and it's easy to hate me if I go, "You're not right for that."
Yeah.
You're not right for that gig.
And the interesting thing is, like, me and Anthony see a slight bit of it because we started our thing called Bad Neighbor, and that was throwing showcases, shows, and stuff like that. And you could tell those people who, like, they really want to do your show, so they really try to, like, they put on a facade of, like, being a friend and, like, acting like they know what's up. Like, in the deal, they always try to, like, always try to make themselves be as familiar with you or as friendly with you as possible, to where it's like, dude, I could, like, you could straight up just see it, like, yo, this guy's only trying to get a spot on our show, or as in Dan's case, he's just trying to get in at my club.
because
it's kind of a weird situation to be in where those guys, they think that you can't tell, but immediately you could tell out the gate.
You
Yeah.
think you have a good sniff test
100%
for
yeah.
that. What about you, Jagger? You think you have a good, like, I see what you're up to. It's super phony.
Yeah, I'll randomly start getting Instagram reels from like other comics that are just trying
you
to
guys
be.
should say who is it?
Well, there
names.
was a guy that
Drop
was
the
from
names.
Sacramento, and
He's actually really cool, but
he sent Anthony a reel of like somebody losing weight or something like that, and he goes, "Made me think of you, bro." And then Anthony goes, "He's looking to get booked pretty soon."
Or he's calling you fat. That's,
yeah.
Because you
definitely not
guys
getting booked.
do shows here often.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they're
I'd
not
like to
talking,
more,
if
but-
they're not talking to, if they're not talking to Dan, the owner, you guys, are
We're
probably-
another stepping stone to
Dan.
the stepping stone that is at the club, you know. and
yeah.
the-
So,
So you
so it's
guys,
almost like you're. I don't know if Anthony's saying it this way, but how I look at it is like we're like filtering.
you guys are like the in.
Well, I guess it's because
yeah, we are.
Yeah,
we
no, own
are.
that. Own
We
that
are
for a
the
minute.
end.
You should.
we are past comics here at the Well Comedy Club, so we have
That-
a better say than what I would say a guy who comes and does open mics.
And we can have what is called in the industry as a vouch. Like we can vouch for
Yeah.
people and give them access to this club and to perform here, because otherwise they're just going to be emailing Dan or DMing Dan, trying and hoping one day to get a spot. But they know that we produce shows here, so they'll just be like, let me try to butter this dude up and say hello, how are you, good morning, all these sorts of things just to kind of get in here. But it's really easy to tell when someone's just kind of brown nosing, you
Yeah.
know, and
It's
it's not
almost-
genuine.
It's almost like when a guy really wants to go on a date with you, but you're not that interested, and you could tell it's like this guy just wants one thing,
Desperate.
desperate. It's a desperate thing.
So
You're
you
like,
can
it's
tell when. Can you tell the difference of when someone is desperate or when someone is just being headstrong about wanting to get a spot?
I think being headstrong and trying to get a spot, you have to be a little desperate, and by that I mean you have to be willing to DM me multiple times and ask to perform on a show that I'm producing. Like you have to be, like I don't think you could be headstrong without being a little bit of like needy, you know. Like
Yeah.
you need, you know, and I've had that before where people just ask me for a spot and you know, it's just an awkward position to be in. And then like Marcos and I go to LA a lot and we perform at open mics over there, and people just like, I used to wear my Well hoodie thinking I'm like, cool, people are gonna like know I'm from the Well, and that just went ugly quick, because now anytime Marcos and I pull up to an LA anything, people know that we're the guys from Bakersfield, and they're like, they just start talking to you. They laugh extra hard during your set,
They
like
see you guys as like the scouts for Bakersfield.
basically. And I look,
Gatekeepers,
but
gatekeepers.
but no, I'd say more of a scout. I feel like they know that we're booking and we can book, and also we have booked people. I mean, I personally booked this guy for his first show here that he recorded a clip for, and now he's touring with Gary Owen all around the country, all because I saw him at an open mic and said, come do our club. And now he's just blowing up, and I think that kind of spread throughout, and people are like, these are the guys from Bakersfield. If you want to go perform at a big show, talk to them, you know.
Yeah, and
and they're not like your homies. They're not, I mean, I feel like some of them are, like the guy I booked is definitely a homie, but a lot of people try to act like your homie, and I think the biggest, fakest part of it is like laughing extra hard and being like, you're so funny, bro. Oh my God. I'm like, dude, I just bombed at this open mic. You're just brown nosing right now.
Between the three of you guys, Dan, you being the owner, you guys going to LA, kind of producing the shows here, kind of booking people here, you guys all are in the same boat of people kind of, how do I say this nicely, like kissing your butt
Yeah.
to get a spot here.
It
they're
can happen.
buttering you up for opportunity they think is going to make or break them. But for at the same time, what our greatest trait or our biggest weapon we have against that is we're also comics as well. We're
Yeah.
not just a booker or a talent agent or something like that. That's just like, oh yeah, you can talk to us nice, and you know, if you send me flowers or something like that,
Yeah.
you know, if you ask me how my wife and kids are doing, I'm gonna, oh, yeah, man, you have whatever gig you want. That guy's nice to me. Versus, hey man, I'm sitting in the crowd with you in these terrible open mics in LA. I'm watching you do comedy. You suck.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. It's like, this guy's great. I'm gonna give him a chance. And that's where me and Anthony are very much we look at that, or like we want people who are actually good instead of people who are like, man, that guy's so nice to me, so cool. Because we do have that relationship even with local comics where those local comics aren't ready to do a show yet. I would never say somebody's never going to do a show for me or with me. I will always say they're not ready yet.
Not ready yet.
Because there's a chance that like they can be working to that level where they're good. Mm-hmm. But right now there's certain comics where I'm like, we can be friends, but just know you're not ready to do any of these shows that I'm producing.
That's so important though, right? Because I think sometimes comics can be really we talked about this on the drive to and from Vegas, delusional.
Yeah.
And you go, hey man, don't make me the bad guy. You're a 9-month open micer and you're trying to get on a show with a 35-year comic who's an Emmy award-winning writer. Come on, man. Don't make you and then I'm the gatekeeper. I'm the bad guy who said I can't put you on that gig. And then you're disenfranchised. You're mad at me. But that was on you. It's part of why I think our relationship too is, I'll say it on camera for both of you guys too. I've always valued our relationship and their role in the club. And part of that is it adds a layer. Mm-hmm. There is a filter. There is a buffer where I can go to them and go, hey, what do you guys think of this guy? He's either a younger comic that's just not on my radar yet. I'm not at the open mics the way that I used to be when I was just a comic, right? Like we talked about earlier, I'm sitting in the back of the room. I'm going up number 11 and I'm writing. I may not even be there. This guy, I have no idea if this guy's any good or not. What do you guys think? Is he worth giving a spot to? And then on the flip side of that is I think folks may want to use them to get to me. I think they do, both of them equally do a good job of filtering that out. Like, this guy's full of it. He's awful. Or like, yeah, this guy deserves a spot. And also I think trying to support them in that role too of like, no, embrace that. You are gatekeepers to some extent, which is funny because I feel gross saying that about me, and yet I could easily look at them and go, no, you are. You are. You're independent. You're independent promoters, and you guys to some extent get to decide: are you going to book somebody on a gig here, or would you pass them on to me and recommend them for a gig here, or shoot them down? You know, but embrace that role. So it is interesting to see that. Like, I hate that title, but I bestows to some extent.
If there's a gate around the club, you have the keys to that, and we have like a picket fence in front of that we choose to let people come in through. It's
like that orange plasticky one with the with the sticks.
We choose.
We're just flipping the stop sign, like on road construction. We're just flipping the stop sign to say
we're just flaggers. We're flaggers.
That's all we are.
Yeah.
Flaggers.
Yeah.
And the thing that's interesting too is Dan's in a unique area too, because there has been comics that have came to the club where all three of us could sit in here and we're huge fans of them, but it's also like where Dan has to make the decision: are they going to headline for me or not? Because are you going to sell me tickets? Are you going to sell tickets, or are you going to make me only have 10 people in this crowd? And that's where Dan always has to make I feel like a tough decision.
Mm-hmm. That part sucks. And I'll be super quick on this one, but on that. And Marcos was there. I opened for Steve Trevino a while back, and he had a line that it's fun how like I'm really thankful to have played a role where like you guys both have a story of a line that I said to you early on, and you were there. Steve went to me, the most important thing you could do for your comics is be here next year, right? And so I want to put on great shows and I want to put on great comics, but I also have to sell tickets, you know? So I'm okay with some shows that don't sell that well if I expose local people to a really great show and make you a believer in comedy and local comedians and the venue and coming out and supporting all that. But we won't be in business for long if that's all we do, right?
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, I'm not willing to book somebody who sells the venue out 5 times over, who just farts into the microphone for an hour. I can't do that either.
Yeah.
I can't do that as a comic, and maybe being a little bit overly altruistic at times. So there does have to be a bit of a blend, and I do think it does, to what Mark was saying, it puts me in a unique spot, but it's a tough spot sometimes. It's not a spot that I actually enjoy or envy or would wish upon somebody else. It's just the spot I'm in.
Marcos, you kind of brought it up a little bit ago about being a past comic. Can you guys explain to me what a past comic is here at the Well?
That is
that shirt.
yeah, that shirt.
I'm wearing
You get
one.
Blue tie-dyed.
You get a
Blue
free
tie-dye-
t-shirt.
I don't even know where mine's at. I lost it.
Outgrew it.
Past comic at the Well Comedy Club is somebody who pretty much Dan with a couple other guys said this guy's good for a ticketed show pretty much, and this guy is reliable. He
has my trust.
He has my trust in performing, and he's a good enough person to where I think he can smash or do well on any show I give them.
So is there like a perk to being a past comic? Is there like different levels of being a past comic?
At the Well, yeah, there's a perk of being a past comic. For me personally, you get to pick where you go in the lineup sometimes during the week. So like on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I can pick wherever I want to go. I want to say for show wise, you don't get to pick what shows you're on, but you're thought of more on what shows you're going to be on and who you're going to be paired with and stuff like that, because that's what being a past comic really means. Is like this guy knows you good enough as a comedian to know where to put you, how you're going to fit right and stuff like that. Another perk, I mean, you get a cool t-shirt, you get cool merch, and then you could go to another club and another comedy club. You tell him, man, I'm a past comic at a comedy club. You could call, I could give him Dan's number and call him, and he'll tell you I'm good.
It's being passed in comedy and in clubs is basically you've been vetted, you've been vouched, you've passed this certain point where you're good. You know, you're good for the club at least. Like you're good to perform here. And Marcos and I are passed at a level where we're openers. Maybe I don't know, not features. Let's like host openers, right? So that we can host and open shows, and Dan has our full trust. You know. But also that too, it's just like almost like a business card. It's just like a stamp on your card. You're like, hey, I'm passed at this club. I've been vetted here, and I perform here. Because a lot of people can say, because a lot of people do this. A lot of comics do this. They'll say, they'll go and put themselves on a flyer and say they perform at the Well Comedy Club, or they perform at the Comedy Store, or they performed at the Improv. But they just did like one bringer show there, and they just get to say that they performed there. But he and I can actually say, no, we're members of this club. We've passed the, if this is vocational school, we've passed the classes. We have our associates from here. We can use that and put it on our resume and travel with it. I think that's the biggest perk. I mean, there's those little perks of that we have of picking where we go in the lineup and opening shows. But I think the biggest stamp is like, we've been vetted and we've passed the program here, if you will. Like we're good to perform other places with that. I personally don't use that yet. I feel like I'm still, I don't know, but like I feel like you can definitely just say like I'm past there, and it'll just be a reputable sort of vouch that you can use in other clubs,
There's like a thing too where, like Anthony said, like he doesn't use it yet. I still don't really like to use it because I'm very much of like, don't let me being passed at a club like think of me a certain way. I was like, watch what I do on stage, and then tell it for yourself.
Yeah.
But like a perk of to me, I find it is like what's tough about being passed though is like you're held to a higher standard than a regular open micer. Like you're responsible to like represent the club in a way that it doesn't make the club look bad, and it doesn't like make the owner look bad, the guy who passed you, and it makes sure like you don't make yourself look bad. So it's in a way where it's like if the club passes you, it's like don't embarrass the club, don't embarrass the owner's name, for passing you type stuff.
Yeah.
And as being passed at the Well Comedy Club, I feel like, and it goes to with us as bookers and promoters, we've performed here so much and so often that we can tell the different crowds that are here. We've been through a lot of different shows. We can be that bit of a gatekeeper to say, I think you would do great at our club, because it is our club now, and we've been through the program, and we know what it's like to perform here, and we can see other comedians and say, I think you could do it. based on what I'm seeing, you know, and ultimately it goes back to us being as comics and bookers and stuff, is like having that inside baseball knowledge of what it takes to perform and do well here. And I think that's a big part of it too, is like we know what it takes to perform and do well here, and we can't go around and just fart into the microphone and just say dirty words on a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday open mic. We have to bring it. And I think that's that there's that pressure on us to show that we didn't let Dan down and that he made the right decision in passing us.
Mm-hmm.
For me too, it's also like I don't want someone who's still not passed here or something like that see me kind of bomb or not do good on stage and go, wow, that guy's passed.
Like catch you on a bad day.
Yeah, catch me on a bad day. I'm like, this guy. Like, so like, there's a weird thing for me that we're like, damn, now I gotta work harder.
Yeah.
Because people think like people's goals are very much like, man, I want to get past that club, but they don't ever look at like what's next. Like you have to look at what's after that. Mm-hmm. You know, because a goal's good, but then like you have to have like 15 other goals lined up after that.
Yeah.
And that's the tough part. And I had this conversation with Dan not that long ago where he was like, man, you haven't been here on a weekend in a while. I go, that's good because I'm here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like I'm here throughout the week. You know, it's fine. Don't put me here because now my goal is to, you know, this is where I come. I pretty much will use this place as like my gym, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, and I'm gonna work out here. I'm gonna try stuff out, do whatever I can, and that I'm gonna take that and go somewhere else. And that's where representing the club kind of for me comes into play.
The shortest answer I'm going to give you the whole podcast is if I boiled it down to one word, I would say trust. To me, being a past comic, there's a trust. I trust that you're going to do well at the open mics. I trust that you're going to do well on shows. I trust that if you're booked on a clean show, you're going to perform clean, and a dirty show, dirty, and a late show, you're going to give that late crowd what they want. And if you go to another club, and if you do, we're still a younger club. It doesn't mean as much as saying I'm past at the Comedy Store. I have no delusions of grandeur about that, right? But to say, or even the Mothership, right, in Austin. But to say that I'm past at this club, if these guys were going to go do a show in Vegas or Tulsa or Miami and say I'm a past comic at the Well Comedy Club, and then go up there and bomb, it'd be so embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Oh, I guess it's a low bar to get past over there. You know what I mean? It's like trusting guys to represent the club well, to do well when they're on stage everywhere they go, to vet comics, to vouch for comics, to conduct themselves professionally when they're here, which kind of sucks because this is supposed to be like the antithesis of professionalism comedy, right? You're supposed to come here and drink and smoke and act stupid and carry on and talk about your wiener or whatever. But there's an expectation of the past comics, like, hey, if somebody's acting stupid, go talk to them. If somebody's, you know, not abiding by the rules, talk to them. Somebody's dropping the mic on stage, talk to them. So there is some expectation, but it's all trust is the one word.